What's the importance of wellness and fitness for the modern day traveler, given how hectic our lives are?
So important. I mean, it's really important for everyone to stay fit. And especially when you're traveling, if you lose track of your fitness, it becomes tough to get back into when you're home.
When you're on the road, your diet often goes for a toss.
Drink enough water, oftentimes you'll find that you're less hungry anyways.
People who are traveling, they're jet lagged. What are some of your tips to help someone fall asleep?
I actually use this amazing app called Time Shifter. Really, I understood the importance of exposing yourself to enough light and also to kind of cut down your caffeine.
If you had to kind of like rate your top 5 yoga retreat from a destination perspective, which ones would you rate?
Ladakh, you can imagine, we're in the Sham Valley, which is amazing vibrations. Kerala over New Year's is just a really happy place. I also believe that India has so much to offer.
We're the home of yoga, right? Hi Ira, great to have you on the Plush Podcast. And I'm here in my athleisure best, just for you.
I love it, so am I.
Yeah, I think we're like color coordinated a little bit as well.
We are twinning.
Yeah.
But the best thing about always being in yoga clothes is that you can just hop on the yoga mat anytime.
Right.
So first tip for people who want to travel, just dress comfortably so that there's no excuse of having to change your clothes.
Right.
And it's amazing that athleisure is really in, so you can just wear it all the time.
That's what I generally wear, if you've seen me at Soho House and all these other places. I'm most comfortable in this, so I'm ready to jump on a yoga mat or go to the gym anytime. So, but great, it's nice to have you here, and you've of course done some fantastic stuff, and you're doing some fantastic stuff in the yoga space. And I attended one of your yoga sessions. First, I think last year at Soho House, and then at your studio. And I was really impressed with your personal, attention to detail. And I was like, I must get Ira on the podcast to talk about wellness and fitness. And given that I travel a lot and you travel a lot as well, I'd love to get your perspectives on how people who travel often, entrepreneurs, working professionals, how they can sort of incorporate, aspects of wellness and fitness into their lifestyles and just travel better,
Perfect. No, I'd love to chat about this. It's a big challenge. The biggest challenge for people, especially, busy people, is that when they travel, they break their routines.
Right.
And it's difficult to get back when you're at home, and it's difficult to do it when you're outside.
Right. So let's start off with your fitness journey. How did you get into yoga?
I have done it all, Rahul. I began by playing squash. So I used to play squash nationally.
Wow.
I played squash on a national level in India. I played squash on a national level in the US. So for several years, I was playing squash very, very seriously and training.
Okay.
And then after college, when I started working, etc., it was difficult. And also, I just felt like there was so much pressure with competitive sports.
Right.
It was continuous pressure, and it took the fun out of it.
Right.
Then when I was in the US, I had just a really unhappy time with my body. Gained a lot of weight, felt really body conscious.
In spite of playing squash, which is a high intensity sport.
After I stopped playing squash. So once I stopped playing squash, because it just felt like too much pressure all the time, really my body went through a lot of changes.
Right.
And not positive changes. So I was just looking for something, and I did a lot of stuff over several years, going to the gym a lot, running. I started running a lot. I ran marathons. It was, I was always trying to find something. I've always been a sports and fitness oriented person. And then I chanced upon yoga. As my parents always said, do yoga. I'd gained a lot of weight. They said, do yoga. We had a yoga sir come home. But he was, first of all, not so fit himself.
Okay.
Second of all, he would fall asleep on the yoga mat during Shavasana and start snoring. And my sister and I were like, what is this? This is not what we aspire to be. This is not really inspiring. So we stopped that. But when I went to the US, I remember I was in college and I was like, wow, these yoga studios, I can't even afford to attend a class here.
Right.
It's like $20 a class, $30 a class. and all these supermodels
In the US.
in the US, all these supermodels were doing yoga. There was such a buzz around the early 2000s, and I was just wondering, but is that what I did in India? Is that what these people are doing? But that was not what I thought was great.
Right.
So it sparked a curiosity in my mind. I went to business school and all of that. That's another long story, my whole spiritual journey. But with yoga specifically, when I moved back to India after going to Columbia Business School and all of that, I was really, unhappy with my body, unhappy with my mind, lost in my fitness journey, just running on the treadmill, going to the gym.
The New York life, right?
Yeah. Literally running on a treadmill, not really seeing many differences in any which way.
Right.
And then I just chanced upon a book. It was on yoga. And being a writer, I had written many books. I said, wow, this is such a great looking book. Maybe this is what place is this? I saw the name of this place, Shivananda Ashram, and I just went.
Which book was this?
It was a book by Swami Shivananda. It was a Shivananda companion to yoga. I think that was the name. I forget the exact name. But I saw that book and I said, listen, this is a great quality book. I want to go to this place. And so I went. The next week, my parents happened to be going to Kerala. I went along with them. I went to the ashram and I started practicing yoga. It was called a yoga vacation. So you go there and you take a yoga vacation.
Okay.
And so I went for the yoga vacation, but the yoga vacation is like an entirely scheduled day.
Right.
And I love that scheduled day. I love the yoga that I was doing there. I really had this amazing, really inner experience, and I was like, wow, this is not the kind of yoga I did, a few years ago. This is totally different, and I love it. It was just the experience that I had during those classes, and I continued to go back there. That's what kickstarted my journey. And now, when I do yoga retreats, I follow that same schedule that I went when I did my first yoga vacation. And my yoga retreats were themed after that. It was themed after my entry point into yoga because I said this yoga vacation changed my life.
Right.
So a yoga retreat can change someone's life.
So that Kerala trip was that life-defining moment for you when you found your calling and you were like, this is what I want to do.
This is what I want to do. And I realized how important it is for people to step off the treadmill, to move into an environment that is sattvic, that is in nature, where you can just focus on this beautiful practice and that can draw you in. And that was what inspired me to start my own journey and also to then start lots of yoga retreats and things because I said
start teaching yoga.
Yeah, of course to start teaching yoga and all of that, but then also specifically to start leading these retreats and traveling with people because I said if people leave their home environment and they travel to another place and they're able to mentally kind of move away from the environments and move into a new environment that changes their lens.
And I was just going to get into that. In your opinion, what's the importance of wellness and fitness for the modern day traveler, given how hectic our lives are?
So important. I mean, it's really important for everyone to stay fit, and especially when you're traveling. If you lose track of your fitness, it becomes tough to get back into when you're home.
Right.
So very, very important.
Right. And I travel a fair bit. I've produced travel shows, so you're always on the road, and those are 18-hour long days, and you don't always get a chance to focus on your fitness. But most people aren't doing that, but a lot of people do travel for work, and if it's for work, they're probably stuck in the conference room or some meetings, or if they're traveling on vacation, they tend to let themselves go as well.
Yeah, definitely fitness is not a priority.
Yeah, it's not a priority. So, I'm personally a bit of a gym rat. I like to stay in hotels that have a good gym, but people have different wellness and fitness practices. So in your opinion, what are some of the key wellness initiatives that you've undertaken or practices that you follow when you're on the road?
With yoga, it's actually really simple, Rahul, because all you need is a yoga mat. And every hotel room will have enough space for a yoga mat. So yoga makes it easy. And even if you don't have a yoga mat, you can find a towel. You can even do yoga on the bare floor. There is no problem.
Right.
So really, I feel that yoga makes it easier for people to just get onto a yoga mat. But for people who don't do yoga, there's a couple of options. Number one, it doesn't have to be long. I think people say, okay, my workout has to be 60 minutes or it has to be 40 minutes. But you know what? Even 15 minutes is great. You can literally get onto a space next to your bed. And nowadays, a lot of people have yoga mats or a towel, and just do like a 10-15 minute HIIT workout. You can do burpees, you can do squats, you can do lunges, you can do some jumping jacks, and you can do some like in place jogging, and you're done. And even that will make you feel really, really good. It'll give you that little burst that you need,
Right.
of just energizing you to take on the day.
Right.
So the key is that change in mentality. It has to be an hour. It can be 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
It can be 5 minutes.
Right.
And that 10 or 5 minutes can make you feel great. Just literally doing jumping jacks for 5 minutes
Right.
is a workout.
So, as a guy, especially who goes to the gym, when I'm traveling, yes, I do look for a gym, but it's not always possible. But I do a lot of what you've just mentioned. If I don't have enough time, I'll do like a quick 5 or 10 minute workout with like 20 burpees or like 10 burpees and some like, squats as well. And just some sit-ups as well.
Push-ups?
Push-ups as well.
Push-ups, great.
Yeah, I did that today because it's been a busy day and I had to get ready for our podcast interviews, and I was running behind schedule, so I was like, let me just do like 20 push-ups, and maybe I can do like 20 later in the day as well.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't need a lot of time. You just need 5 or 10 minutes to kickstart your day.
Absolutely, and that's sometimes enough. So I would say the important things to include, and everyone can do this is for everyone, is beginning with some like just joint warm-ups, simple stuff, neck rotations, shoulder rotations. And
Right.
sometimes if you just want to do the warm-up, just do the warm-up. Even that's great. Just like simple stuff, moving all the joints in your body. So that if you've been sitting the whole day, if you've been at a conference and you're traveling for work, just like 10 minutes of simple joint movements can make you feel really good. And
Right.
it doesn't take energy.
Right.
It's just kind of relaxing, coupling it with breathing can make you feel
Right.
good.
Sure.
And this is, of course, the non-yoga stuff. If you're doing yoga, then literally 10 minutes of sun salutations is almost a complete workout.
Is that Surya Namaskar?
Surya Namaskar.
Okay.
10 minutes of Surya Namaskars will be fantastic. You can just do that, do a quick 30-second Shavasana, and you're done. Even that is going to make you feel perfect. And that's why I love yoga, because as I mentioned, I've done a lot. I've been a sports person. I've been, workout, running. And I felt that yoga was the most holistic, the most scientific, the most balancing. And it really is a strength workout as well as a balance workout. It works on your nervous system. It's working on your endocrine system. So it's really, really, really good. It's very, very holistic.
Right.
As compared to I'm just getting stamina because I'm running every day, or
Sure.
I'm just doing strength all the time and I've gained a lot of muscle, but I have no flexibility,
Sure.
and my endocrine system like zero, so stuff like that.
Right. And us guys, a lot of guys, I don't want to generalize, but like we look to stack muscle, right? But although I know a lot of guys who hate the gym, and when you're on holiday, let's say a week-long holiday, you're not necessarily looking to stack, but you're looking to maintain yourself. So if you are going to the gym, you don't necessarily have to go every day, but if you can squeeze in like a 30-minute workout, maybe like twice or maybe thrice, in a 1-week trip, you're good. Secondly, like when you're, especially in Western Europe or some of these other countries, like in the US as well, you tend to walk a lot. If you're in New York City, you're walking. Those are cities where you can walk, New York, London, and various other European cities as well. So I feel like you're burning some calories when you're walking as well. So that's another way to kind of like stay fit when you're on the road. But to get to your point, one of the areas that I struggle with is flexibility, right? And it's getting more and more, it's more and more important now as you get older, where it's not just about going to the gym, and it's not just about cosmetics, but it's also about actual fitness and wellness, right?
Yes, yes.
So being flexible is really important, and that's where some of your tips could come in really handy for someone like myself.
Absolutely. For example, you just said it, when you're on holiday and you're walking a lot. That's great. You're actually, you may not need to work out at all because you've just moved so much the whole day. But what may happen is that your lower back may become stiff.
Right.
Your hamstrings and your glutes become like really tight.
Right.
Because you've just been walking the whole day.
Right.
So it's really important to come back and to just do some simple stretching. Like a simple forward bend and holding that bend for 2 minutes. It's really important to hold your stretches. That's what makes them asanas, when you hold and you breathe.
Right.
So I would say that for someone who is going to the gym, just learn a set of sun salutations, Surya Namaskar, learn all the postures. It's literally a half an hour effort, and then hold every posture. And that is your complete workout. So even when I travel and I love walking, I'll choose walking over taking a taxi any day. I will try and just do a little stretching.
Right.
Just holding postures for a while so my lower back doesn't feel achy.
And you can do this in your hotel room.
You can do this in your hotel room. It doesn't really take much effort. You can do this anywhere. You don't need much space and you don't need much effort. So simple stuff. Simply just stretching your arms up and then going down and touching your toes and just holding that forward fold, that Padhastasana, what we call it in yoga, for just like a minute, and then coming back and then doing like a simple back bend. Even something so simple like that can really, really, really help.
So typically, like when you're on the road, let's say you're on vacation with family, typically do you do this in the morning or do you space it out, across the day?
Whenever you get time, because mornings may not happen because mornings, there's kids with us and you want to, like, the kids will, like, they wake up early, you're playing with them, or, it's just like whenever there's time.
Because your body's a bit stiff in the morning, so just to kind of like loosen it up, it would be nice to just maybe stretch a little bit, spend 5 minutes.
It would, but it doesn't. Sometimes it may or may not happen, especially on holiday, because you may sleep in, all of that. But I would just say whenever you get a chunk of time, oftentimes it's in the afternoon. People kind of have a plan in the morning, they have a plan in the evening, and the afternoon they may just have some rest time in the hotel or some downtime. So I would say if you try to schedule it on a holiday, high chances you'll miss it. So instead of doing that, just be kind of, have in your mind that whenever I have a small chunk of time, I'm going to try and do this. So if it's not possible to schedule, then being disciplined about it, but maintaining some flexibility is really good.
Sure. What I generally do, because I do push-ups and and sit-ups and squats just in my hotel room, and I want to incorporate some yoga poses as well, and it's just like 5 minutes. What I typically do is I tend to do it like first thing in the morning before going down for breakfast.
Perfect.
So I feel like I've warmed up my body and I can have some...
Your metabolism gets
Exactly.
started.
And I can have some good protein for breakfast as well. And then typically in the evening as well, when I'm back from, if it's a holiday, then whenever I'm back from, let's say, a day of sightseeing, or if I'm at a conference, then when I'm back from the conference, typically I'll just do a quick, 5 or 7 minutes again of, like, say 20 push-ups and some squats.
Great.
So I'm just maintaining my body.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily like stacking muscle or whatever, but I'm just maintaining my body.
And you're feeling good.
And I'm feeling
Your
good.
body feels good. More than anything else, you just feel good.
Right.
Like even this morning when you had a busy day and just did a little bit, you just feel stronger.
Right.
The blood is flowing. The body feels more limber. You just feel better more than anything else.
Absolutely.
Like, now my workouts, yoga has all been about, like, I feel good. So even today I said, I'm not going to feel good unless I leave my house until I've done something.
Right.
So today it was just so much going on that mental space for yoga may not have been there, because yoga, you need a lot of mental space.
Yeah.
So often that's why yoga is best in the morning, because it's like you have clarity of mind, you have quiet, all of that. But today I got in a Pilates workout, I just said, okay, I got to do some Pilates. I'll do for me, like 55 minutes is quick. Like that's
Wow.
that's short, because our practices are usually longer.
Right.
For yoga we spend because it's a slower practice. As a teacher, I end up spending about an hour and a half minimum practicing every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, okay, let me do a 55-minute Pilates workout, and that's pretty good.
And that has a lot of mental benefits as well, right?
It
because
does.
You feel good about yourself.
You do.
Feel like
you feel accomplished.
Yes.
You feel accomplished, and that feeling of feeling accomplished, it moves on to the day.
Right.
Like this morning, I usually like to wake up and I like to go out and get some sun. So I like to wake up and go straight to the park and just walk. And I'll be walking, and it's not like necessarily a really, really fast walk, but it's just a walk.
Right.
It's just being outside, being in nature, being under the sun for even if it's 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes. And I listen to some music, or I leave like my team voice notes, and this is what needs to be done for the day. So I've kind of given my instructions to everyone.
Your mind is clear as well.
Yeah, and I've thought about what my
morning.
day has to be. I've given everyone their checklist, and at the same time, I've moved.
Right.
I've gone and I've been out in nature, and I, just like a little bit of sweat, a little bit of sunshine, and it's so nice.
I did precisely this during COVID because we were all stuck at home. But luckily, where I live, we have a pretty big compound. So about 7:38 in the morning, I used to go downstairs and listen to a podcast for about 20 minutes that really motivates me, and also get some sun and move, right? And then do some push-ups. So I'm starting my day sweating a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, and you feel good about yourself.
You feel good about it.
And you're ready to take on the day.
You're ready to take on
the challenges for the
and
day.
it's not, it's kind of, and at the same time I've worked. I've been walking at the same time I've dropped voice notes to people. I love voice notes because you can just like give them on the go. People can listen to them later because you can't type while you're walking.
Sure.
But you can leave some voice notes. You listen to some music and you feel inspired and ready to start the day.
Right.
And then I'll end up doing yoga a little bit later then, you know, maybe whenever I get time.
Right.
Sometimes it's in the afternoon, sometimes in the evening, sometimes it's in the morning. But oftentimes, the morning I like to do that little walk,
Right.
you know, that little walk movement. Maybe sometimes add in a little bit of a jog if
Sure.
I'm feeling like I want the little cardio burst.
So for those who are traveling, if you can possibly do about 10 minutes of yoga, or do some push-ups, or sit-ups
Yeah.
as well, and see if you can go around the block for a quick walk just to
Yeah.
get your body moving.
If you're not already walking a lot during a holiday, you
Right.
know, but I mean, because a lot of times traveling does give you that advantage that you're in places where there's nature and all of that. But if not, I think just easiest and quickest.
Right.
Like incorporating a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you're a yoga person, that's sun salutations. If not, push-ups, I would say are great. Squats, some lunges, and maybe if possible, like a little bit of a cardio burst. Like do 2 or 3 minutes of jumping jacks.
Right.
Or 2 or 3 minutes of burpees.
And there's no excuse to not do that, because you don't need equipment. You can literally do it in your hotel room, right next to your bed.
Yeah.
Just open the curtains,
You're done.
and you're fine, right?
Another way that is also great for people who lift weights, for people who are like real, they really want the weights.
Yeah.
And it's important for them, is to carry a resistance band set, because resistance bands are really light.
Yeah.
And you can easily just have like a little travel set.
Right.
And if you have your resistance bands with you, you can do a bunch of stuff for your arms,
Right.
for your legs.
Absolutely.
So I feel like a great way is to just pack up some, and they're super light. They're like a few, like they're weightless practically.
Yes.
So carrying a couple of resistance bands, they don't take up space, they don't take up any weight in your luggage. You can carry them with you wherever you go. So I normally carry like at least one resistance band with me.
Right.
So that when I'm doing some stuff for my, I end up doing like a lot of stuff for my glutes, because my glutes and hamstrings tend to get tight, especially after long flights. So doing like bridging and doing some, different kinds of glute bridges. So I definitely,
Right.
as a woman, I know people end up, their hips get tight. So that's a really good option.
And talking about flights, I've often found myself, especially on long flights, just getting off from my seat and walking up and down the aisle, and moving to the area where the flight attendants are sitting, and sometimes just chatting with them, but also like really like flexing and stretching. I tend to do those back bends and just kind of like try and touch my toes and stuff. Because your body, when you're sitting in one position.
Yeah.
So I'd really encourage people to do that as well.
Yeah, on flights, it's just to walk. Like even walking up and down the aisles and stretching your legs can be just the best thing, especially on long flights. I don't know how people do go without it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's important. And, coming to your retreats, you mentioned you do a lot of retreats. I'd love to know more about the kind of retreats you do, and what's the average day like at one of these retreats, and how do you design these retreats?
So as I mentioned earlier, I designed it around my first yoga vacation experience. That's the inspiration. But we typically, wake up in the morning, not super, super early. It's not like a 5 a.m. rise or 6 a.m. rise. But like the first class will be at like say 7 a.m. in the morning. So,
Yeah.
it's not unachievable for people. It's not like 5 and 4. And we'll do yoga, like a nice long 2-hour class, then have like some breakfast. And the classes are not difficult. Like anyone can do them. We'll spend time doing breathing, spend time doing asana. And then after that, we typically have breakfast. And then you have time to do either sightseeing, depending on where we are, or some people just want to relax. They just want to be in their room, like read a book, be by themselves. So you have that time period to decide what you'd like to do. We actually encourage 2 meals during a yoga retreat, like a brunch, a dinner, and like a tea or snacks in the afternoon. So we'll typically do that. And then we have another yoga class, usually around 3:34. That'll go on till around 6. Then again, dinner, and then usually there's a post-dinner activity. Like we'll be doing something together as a group, whether that's a meditation, a sound healing, or like a talk, like some sort of like a game, like some sort of a bonding activity that we'll do. And then we will usually go to bed pretty early, by like 10 o'clock or so, because you've done like usually 3 yoga classes or some kinds of yoga. You've been out and about, so it gets kind of
you do incorporate some element of sightseeing as well.
We do, because we're going to such beautiful places. For example, we're going to Bhutan, and most people have never been to Bhutan before.
Yeah.
So we definitely try to have a good like a good sightseeing cultural schedule, and it's usually related to some kind of spirituality. So we'll visit monasteries, we'll visit places which have at least some temples, which have some spiritual interest to it.
Right.
So when we're in Bhutan, we have like a trek one day, then we have a visit to monasteries another day, and then we have like Thimphu, the capital, just to check that out another day. So,
nice, awesome. I'd like to actually attend one of these retreats. But how do you choose these destinations, right? I mean, is there a screening process for which destinations you want to shoot at, or is it just based on some of your research?
I like to go to places which have a high spiritual vibration. So places like, for example, Kerala, the backwaters.
Right.
We do one in Rishikesh. That's the yoga capital of the world, so amazing place. We're doing one in Bhutan. We do ones closer to Mumbai, which are more local, so people can like hop into their cars and come. But again, in beautiful areas, which are like properties also that have some sort of spiritual connection. So for example, in Ladakh, we do our retreat at a place which is family owned, and by supporting them, we support the local monasteries, the local schools, the local orphanages, because they donate and maintain all of these places. So we try to choose very conscious and ethical places so that the chain becomes conscious.
Right. Awesome. So which are like some of your top yoga retreats? Which are some of the destinations where you've done some of your yoga retreats?
So we have almost a fixed schedule every year. So we begin the year in Kerala over New Year's. So there's a retreat every New Year's Eve. So instead of partying over New Year's, come to a yoga retreat.
Yeah.
You'll be away from the crowds, away from all of that. You'll be in a beautiful place. So we do Kerala over New Year's. Then in March, it's typically Rishikesh. So we go from Mahashivratri to Rishikesh. That's usually at the Paramarth Niketan Ashram, which is fantastic, right on the banks of the Ganges. And then we do one usually in Bali. This year we also did one in the Andaman Islands.
Wow.
In February. It was the first time. So we try to include like a new location every year.
Right.
And Andamans was amazing. So then we do one around May in Bali, and then around June, July is going to be in Ladakh, and then around like September this year we're doing one in Bhutan. Then October we either do another one in Rishikesh, or we'll do one this year. We're doing one in the Govardhan Eco Village, which is a fantastic place right outside of Mumbai, about 2 hours away. And then end of the year is usually in Kerala. So we start the New Year's there.
Right. So you've shortlisted 4 or 5 destinations around the world.
We do.
Where you have these yoga retreats.
We do, and we keep on including new places. Like for example, we're planning one in the Maldives because I think that'd be wonderful. So different kinds of places which we feel are conducive to yoga. So there are specific islands in the Maldives which are really beautiful, quiet, and you can really enjoy your yoga practice and just spend time in nature with like-minded people. So we add in new places. So there's always like some new places in mind, like now the Kumbh Mela. So we'll do a yoga retreat at the Kumbh Mela.
But isn't that super busy, super crowded? It's kind of like the opposite of this. Some of the places you mentioned.
There's some amazing stuff going on. So we'll be at like a place which is not right in the Mela, but we'll visit the Mela.
Right.
And it gets very crowded on the dipping days. Otherwise, it's kind of it's huge. So there's enough space for everyone.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. So if you had to kind of like rate your top 5 yoga retreats from a destination perspective, which ones would you rate?
Gosh, that is so difficult. Because every retreat is so different. Ladakh, you can imagine we're in like the Sham Valley, which is amazing vibrations. Kerala over New Year's is just a really happy place. It's got some really positive vibes. Everyone, you just feel so light and happy. And then you have, then we're in Bali, which is just like Ubud is such a spiritually elevated place. So I've shortlisted these locations after a lot of research and a lot of experience.
Right.
Attending, spending time in these places. Same with Paro, Bhutan. I spent about 2 weeks there, a few years ago, and I knew that this was the right place for yoga.
Typically, at least the destinations you mentioned, they're not too far away from India. Is that a conscious choice? Because I'd assume, places like Costa Rica or Tulum in Mexico
Absolutely.
would also be fantastic.
Amazing.
But it's just a bit of a mission to get there.
It is.
Right?
It is. I do international retreats, but they're often for selective groups and stuff like that. But the ones that we do publicly through my company, we do them in India and close to India. I also believe that India has so much to offer.
It does.
India has got so much to
Look,
offer.
we're the home of yoga, right?
Absolutely, and such great vibes in so many places. And there's still so many places that I want to explore, like the Northeast, Meghalaya.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do something there. And just, Gangtok. There's some really great places where there's some great energy. And even around India, like Thailand, Maldives, Southeast Asia is amazing. So they're really very yoga friendly. So I feel that it's important to support the local economy, to support the local, travel industry, and really boost wellness in this country.
Right. I want to also touch upon a couple of other aspects of staying fit and, of course, wellness as well, especially when you're on the road. When you're on the road, your diet often goes for a toss, right? We try and convince ourselves that we're on holiday, we can cheat, and by all means, you're on holiday, one must explore different cuisines. But often you also don't get the right diet. You don't get the right, you could be having a burger somewhere and it's not really healthy. So what are your tips for someone who's on the road, and how can one regulate what they eat?
That's a tough one because often holidays are all about eating, but the only real way of doing it is to make the healthy choice. If you're having a pizza, try to have a sourdough, based pizza. Now that's really common.
Yeah.
Or have like a whole wheat crust. Just try not to choose the pizza place or try not to choose McDonald's. Try to do something which is a little healthy and a little local.
Right.
You often find that local cuisines are quite healthy.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to anywhere in South India, you can get a great idli, sambar, dosa.
Sure.
You don't have to, and that's fairly healthy. So if you're traveling and you eat local, then oftentimes the food is pretty healthy.
Right.
And the other big one is try as much as possible to moderate the amount that you're eating.
Yeah.
And drink a lot of water. What we forget to do is to hydrate.
Absolutely.
And if you drink enough water, oftentimes, you'll find that you're less hungry anyways.
Right. And what I do is, for every one bad meal that I have, and when I say bad meal, it could be like a burger and fries. And sometimes you want to do that. Look, you're on vacation, you want to let yourself go a little bit. I understand that. For every one bad meal I have, I'll make sure that the next two are relatively a lot healthier, So I'll incorporate some lean meats, or if you're vegetarian, salads and other forms of protein in the other meals. To compensate for that bad meal. And I'll try and stick to maybe a couple of bad meals in a week-long trip, but not more than that. And as far as drinking goes, I'm not much of a drinker, but I understand people want to go and have a drink. And, you go out clubbing, you go to a bar. A really good tip is to perhaps have a glass of water after every drink.
Yeah.
And like you said, hydrate yourself as well. So you're not spending your time, in your bed with a hangover the following morning. You don't want to do that, right?
Not when you're on holiday.
So not when you're on holiday. So just keep sipping on some water as well when you're on a holiday, and to kind of make up for all the alcohol you're drinking.
Great.
And a third aspect I wanted to ask you about is sleep, which is super important. People who are traveling, they're jet lagged. I hate red-eye flights. and I just can't sleep on a red-eye flight. So what are your tips for someone who is, let's say, on a flight, or perhaps in a different destination in a completely different time zone, and they're not able to sleep? What are some of your tips to help someone fall asleep?
So I recently went to the US. It was a 5-day trip. So it was short. I went all the way to Dallas, Texas for just 5 days. And I actually use this amazing app called Time Shifter.
Time Shifter.
Time Shifter is a great app. And it told me when I should be sleeping, when I should get exposure to sunlight, when I should stop consuming caffeine, and when I should take melatonin.
Okay.
These are the 4 main things that you can really do, and this app told me. So really I understood the importance of exposing yourself to enough light and at the right times. And also to kind of cut down your caffeine consumption, because we end up consuming caffeine, but it actually really doesn't help us.
Right.
So kind of consuming caffeine responsibly.
That's bad news for all these coffee lovers.
Yeah, but you can have coffee still, but just consume it at the right times.
Sure.
And then even melatonin, I use melatonin. I found that it was really effective. It's great. Use it a little bit. Use it responsibly, and it's fantastic. So these really helped me. I had a very hectic schedule when I was there, but all of it was great.
Right. And I feel like when I'm in a hotel room, I can fall asleep like a baby. It's something about hotel beds, maybe it's the mattress, that really, kind of knocks me out. But that's probably not the same story for a lot of people who have trouble falling asleep. So are there any asanas that you'd recommend for people, maybe just before bed,
Absolutely.
bedtime, that they can just use?
The simplest thing is to do pranayam, is to do some good deep breathing. Just long, deep, slow breaths, counting till say 25 of them. By the time you finish your 15th to 20th round, you'll probably be getting sleepy.
Right.
Another great one that I like to use is to use lavender essential oil.
Okay.
It really works, especially there's a brand called doTERRA.
doTERRA.
doTERRA. It's really, really high quality. And if you just literally use 2 drops.
Is it DOTERRA?
DOTERRA.
Okay.
Really, really, really high quality lavender oil, because lavender oil will not work unless it's really high quality.
Right.
Because it's such a subtle, it's so subtle.
Right.
But this one really works, just two drops on your pillow, or just inhaling it, and you'll fall asleep. It's really, really great. So it immediately calms you down. So lavender oil is a fantastic remedy, and it's tiny. You can carry that tiny little bottle, and you're done.
So yeah, this is some great information, some fantastic tips on your diet, on sleep, and of course on staying fit while on the road. And Ira, for those who want to find you online, what's the best way to go about it?
Instagram, and just find me at Ira Trivedi on Instagram. Visit my website, iratrivedi.in, and you'll find my email address there. So just Google me and find me on Instagram, and you can see that you saw me on the Plush Podcast, and I'd be very happy to answer your queries.
Great. Thank you so much, Ira, for joining us.
Thank you, Rahul.
Look forward to hopefully doing something like this with you again in the future.
Yes, thank you so much. We look forward to having you at the yoga classes and at a yoga retreat really soon. Keep up the great work.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.